There isn't
quiet
one, you
because
just
we're
gotta-
gonna be on the records,
Go
remember,
there.
Murray? Okay, it's Wednesday, February 7th, 2024. It's 5:32. We're at City Hall, Council Chambers, 1103 West Main Street. Call to order, roll call.
Council President Kaiser.
Here.
Councilmember Christiansen.
Here.
Councilmember Murray.
Here.
Councilmember O'Meara.
Here.
We have the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
So we are blessed this evening with Gary Erickson with Canyon Springs to lead us in prayer. Thank you.
If you are willing, please bow your head and join me in prayer. God, we ask for your blessing over all of the proceedings that take place here this evening. We acknowledge the high calling that you have placed on each leader here to be both leader and servant. Please pour out your wisdom and compassion over all of the discussion and decisions that will be made here tonight. We praise you and we thank you for the guidance that you will provide. Help us to see clearly the best path forward for every item that will be covered this evening. And bless all who are in attendance this evening. In Jesus' name we pray.
Amen.
Amen.
Thank you.
Okay.
All right. Council, we have an agenda before us that was posted February 2nd at 4 p.m. Any questions on the agenda? All right, then I move we approve the agenda as posted.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. You want me to handle the information, Tim?
Yes, but before we get started on the information item number 1, I want to keep our opinions short since we have such a long agenda.
Okay. First information tonight before us is a discussion on food trucks. Do we have, who's starting? Councilmember Murray brought this to our attention.
Sorry, I did invite the owner of Latte Da to come down. Is Tabitha here? Come up to the mic and talk to us. So it's my understanding you've been having trouble with some of the recent changes that we made, most particularly the change requiring moving the trailer every night. Is that right?
Yes.
So do you want to tell us how that affects you?
Yeah, so I've been at the car wash for a little over a year now. I've been able to park there, staying overnight, which is pretty essential to my business. The consistency of it, being able to be there, being a presence in town, has helped me to be a part of the community and have those consistent hours that everybody is looking for to grow my business. If I were to move my trailer every night, then that adds risk to the hauling of the trailer, all of the maintenance to and upkeep every single night, the risk of just having, I mean, that's my business and a machine and driving back and forth, and what that looks like would be not feasible for me to continue to operate as I currently am with my regular hours.
So what time does your coffee shop open at?
6.
So if, I don't know where you live, but if you were to have to hook up your trailer every morning and get it in here and unhook it and set everything up that way, how much time would that add to your morning prior to opening?
To my morning, it's going to add 30 to 45 minutes,
Okay.
just in that process of making sure everything's secure, to be able to move, and then setting everything back up for the day.
So I'm interested in looking at, until there arises an actual problem that may require that to be reinstituted, I'm interested in removing it.
I have a question, if I may. So in the last year, the council granted the property owners over there access to have food trucks on every property, is that what I understand?
No, there was a whole list of, and Roberta's got the whole list, probably pretty accessible, but we made a number of changes. I think most of the motivation behind it was what we saw happening in other towns in terms of having food trucks camped out permanently all over town and competing with brick and mortar businesses who pay property taxes. And so we were trying to learn the lessons from other cities and what they're going through and follow their example. But I just think that this one, at this point in time anyways, requiring moving the trailer every night is harming, you know, a shop that many people I know like to go to, so.
So my concern is, if she has access to be there permanently, but not paying the property taxes as a brick and mortar business has to, she can lower her prices in competition and still have the same profit margin as somebody who is right around the corner over at Ridley's in that area, who's brick and mortar and paying property taxes.
Well, she does have a lease with Alan Tremble, so.
Well,
he's
and that's
paying the property
between
taxes.
those two. I'm
Yeah.
talking about property taxes that help run our city. Yes, sir.
Jackie, Mayor Hutchinson, excuse me. The property taxes are still being collected. I mean, just, she's paying the lease. The
But she's
property
not-
owner is paying the property taxes.
Which, does that include her,
Her business, that's a good question. I don't know.
yeah, for her food truck, is it included in his property taxes?
Can you answer that?
I cannot answer that.
I'm gonna say I would guess not, because property taxes are based on permanent structures. You know, you don't raise the value of my property because I add a temporary shed that's on cinder blocks. So I don't believe that would be calculated. Roberta, does that sound about right?
I really don't know that, about
When-
those kind, I don't know about those kind of things, so,
Okay.
taxes and counting.
My only concern is, and kudos to you for being a strong woman going out there and having your own business. I just worry about the other businesses that compete and have to pay a different tax level that and I'm pretty sure her property owner doesn't have to pay because it is a temporary structure. That's my concern, and you know, the council will vote on that, but that's my concern. And my other concern is if we end up having 10 of them on Main Street, competing with our brick and mortar businesses. And when you are in a food truck, you have the ability to have a lower price. For instance, over at Piccadilly Park on Thursdays, there's an ice cream. And right down the street is a brick and mortar ice cream that hires our local kids. And the difference in the prices is $1 on that day. So you understand what I'm saying?
Mayor Hutchinson, may I ask a question that just came to mind? So the difference between her food truck and others that go to Piccadilly Square and other places is that she stays overnight when she's not in business, whereas the others.
Well, and it
move.
becomes a permanent structure, even if it's permanent only for 6 months or 3 months or whatever. Once it's there for a overnight, it almost becomes, if I knew that she was gonna be there every day and I drank coffee and I was willing to go and buy coffee, I would almost count on her being there. So it becomes almost a permanent business.
No, I understand that, but in terms of the business, in terms of the revenue period of time, it is during the operational day.
Right.
And so parking overnight, that's what the others do in different locations where they don't pay property tax.
Right, that's just my concern. My
Yeah,
concern
just
is to
the
look out for
overnight
the businesses that are here in town that are brick and mortar, paying huge amounts of rent and property taxes and insurance for their spots, and I'm sure you pay some of those things too.
So
but
again, I'm
that's-
just trying to say, it's the overnight parking that really is the issue. Would that be accurate?
That's one of it, and the fact that we have a property owner that is getting revenue, which I have nothing against, but I'm worried that we're gonna have several of them on Main Street competing with our brick and mortar businesses.
Yeah, no, I get that, but the same thing is true of the other trucks as well, right?
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah, not to pick you out of the rest of them, but that is I'm always looking 2 months out, 10 months out, 10 years out. And I can see where it can become an issue.
Just a few final points. How many coffee shops do we have in town? Is there 2, you and Middleton Espresso? I mean, based on the morning traffic that we see around here, I highly doubt either of them are hurting for business. I mean, every time I go by Middleton Espresso, they're
Yeah, there's a
jam-packed,
line.
especially in the morning, it's jam-packed. I also hate, and I understand wanting to prevent things like that happening, but if we don't currently have a problem, but we do have a law in place which is causing harm in one way or another to someone in our town, I would rather institute that law at a later time when there actually is a problem to address rather than now, and know that I'm harming her. So that's,
It is not the intention of this seat to harm her. It is the intention to look out for the city and for the business owners in this town and their profit margin so that they can continue.
I understand.
Okay,
Can I speak to that real quick?
absolutely.
In where I'm at, and part of the reason why I am in Middleton is I do have future plans of being in brick and mortar, and that's part of what I'm doing now is building that process so that we can get to that point where we are brick and mortar buildings.
So you can understand by what you just said that if a food truck in the future, when you open up your business as a brick and mortar, parks their food truck near your business, that it could affect it. So you understand that. So
Absolutely.
yeah, so I just wanted to voice my opinion. Yes, sir.
Did we set a separation between food trucks? They had to be so far apart, Roberta? Do you know for sure? I thought that we had talked about so many feet between. Or so
No, we
many-
did talk about when they're in the mixed-use zone where you'd have residential right next to commercial. We did not want food trucks parked next to the townhomes or homes that would be there. That
But
was,
not competing businesses.
but that was just for the privacy of the residents. Nothing about competing businesses, though. Yeah.
Okay, so we're talking about a business that's backed up to residential homes.
That can only occur in the mixed-use zone, and so there was a footnote in the law that said, when in the mixed-use zone, these food trucks need to stay away from the people living there, basically.
Okay,
It's commercial.
She's in commercial. Her-
And
where
she's in
parked?
a C2 zone, so
Okay,
so
alright.
she's fine there, yeah.
Just trying to get all the ducks in a row.
Yeah, yeah.
We tried, council, not to take away property owners' rights in terms of food trucks, but then we tried to limit, obviously, some locations and length of stay, thinking long-term. If I personally own property downtown, if that's my choice to lease out a piece of it for a food truck, then I would expect to have that right. It's my property, right, as long as it's maintained, and there were several rules in terms of waste dump, and
Right.
remember we went through all that with them. Another business that comes to mind now is Tropical Snow, very seasonal, but down in Ridley's where they actually, set their hut up with tables, and so by this, at the time not realizing it, but by the way that is worded, they would have to actually take that trailer that's not necessarily as mobile as what we've seen, we've all seen it, and that would have to move nightly as well. So I think I think we need to revisit it and have that discussion. I don't want to take away from brick and mortar, but I don't want to take away from those that are trying to be brick and mortar, and I don't want to take away from a property owner's rights. So I think we need to have that conversation again with that in front of us and kind of hammer out some of these things that we need to hammer out. So can we bring that back with the next, I don't know if next is the right one, at a very early date?
I think the process at this point is, if that's what all we're addressing is the overnight part of it, I mean, I could take it through P&Z and just strike that language, or is that all we're talking about, just the overnight?
Currently, but I want to make sure we're not revisiting this again and again.
I know,
and
we
again.
did a lot of visiting the last time.
Are you, are you concerned about the table and chair?
Say that again?
Since you mentioned the tables and chairs that Tropical Snow puts out, does that concern you as well?
No, that their chairs don't and their setup doesn't, but based on this, they would have to remove all
Have to
that
move the
nightly,
building.
and that concerns me. I remember when that business started, that family that started it, sold it to now who has it, or who sold it to them. Anyways, they did it, that was their kid's job. Literally, they started that business for their children to have work. And it's obviously grown from there. And so I'm kind of trying to create the best of both worlds for all involved.
Yeah.
So, that's why I would like to, more so than just the overnight, let's make sure we've got everything covered so that we're not doing this again.
So could we do something like this? Could we say that we'd like to do a trial period of 12 months and see how it works, and come back in 12 months and address it, and see how that trial period went?
In terms of the
In terms of her being permanently parked there?
allowed to stay
Uh-huh.
X number, yeah, and then that affects tropical snow, that affects, we can
Well,
look at it
as
and
our
see.
town grows, we're gonna
Exactly.
have, I mean,
Right,
but would that be something we would,
I would be.
So you're talking about removing that portion for 12 months to watch what happens and then look at it again in a year's time?
Mhm.
Not leaving it as it is for 12 months? Okay.
Yes.
Then yeah, I'm on board with that.
This is an ordinance, correct?
It was part of a larger ordinance that included a whole list of
Yeah, I have to,
zoning changes.
Councilman?
Jackie, I'd like to revisit this again for sure,
Sooner, or would you?
as soon as possible,
Oh,
so
okay.
we don't deter her business at all. But I think that one of the issues that we had in asking the business to move at night was sanitation purposes. Give them a chance to go and clean their tanks, that kind of stuff, rather than just constantly accumulating in the position that they're at.
Can I ask
So-
Roberta a question on that? Because I think there's an important differentiation between a coffee shop and something that might have a deep fryer, a grill with lots of grease, because then that applies more, and that's more of a concern for sanitation. But if you're running a coffee shop, I don't think you have the same kind of debris you need to worry about. Could we make a distinction between different types of trailers?
I don't see why you couldn't. I mean,
Well, I know that I know that you do a lot of cleaning and making sure everything's sanitized. Can you do it on premises on a daily basis, or do you need to move your truck to do an adequate job?
I don't need to move my truck on a daily basis to keep up on that.
so maybe to proceed from here, planning staff and city administration or any, we could just kind of take another shot at the code, and I would have to take it all the way through P&Z, so it's not gonna come to you, because P&Z is only once a month, so it's not gonna get to you quickly, a couple months at the earliest.
Okay, let's start the process.
Now, I'll look at that tropical snow. I thought it was actually on a type of foundation like railroad ties or something. I
It is,
never even.
But it's
oh,
not
they're-
permanent.
No. A food truck is defined as having a cart
Okay,
or vehicle, and they're on
Wheels.
foundation. They're not a cart and they're not a vehicle, so they're fine.
okay.
In my book, they're fine. So I think we're just looking at overnight, really. And I think I can get something going here for the next P&Z and try to get it to you in April.
Okay.
So,
Brings up
Roberta,
another question.
you're telling me that if I sneak over to her trailer tonight and put some
steal all
cinder
the
blocks
wheels
under
off.
it and take the wheels off?
She's stationary.
Yes, I am telling you that. If she were to put on some kind of foundation, she's not a cart and she's not a vehicle. Yes.
We'll run our own pit crew.
Yes, we are.
Very interesting.
For hire.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm sorry.
All right.
We digress.
Well, thank you very much. We will obviously be in touch with you as this progresses.
Thank you.
Can I ask a clarifying question?
Yes.
In the meantime, do I need to move my truck every night?
No. And if I'm understanding correctly, we're going to wait, correct? Because I don't want to enforce a rule that we might be changing, Roberta.
So I'm planning and zoning official. The code is active today.
Mhm.
Okay.
Until the code is changed.
And until the code is changed, The
She's not in
city
compliance.
council
This is
members,
not an
planning
action
staff
item tonight,
can't
No, it's
grant
not.
privileges without a certain legal process occurring.
I got you. I didn't
See.
realize it was becoming official today.
Yeah.
Is there a chance that we could issue a waiver at the next meeting, since this is not an action item? Do we have the ability to issue a waiver 2 weeks from tonight, so she would be clear until we make a decision?
So there is a procedure for getting a waiver or variance, and it takes a P and Z public hearing and 15 days notice.
Okay.
That's just called city law. I mean, I understand.
Okay.
But that's, if you start showing favoritism that way, that's a two-edged sword.
No, I understand. I'm not trying to show favoritism. I was just hoping that we could grant a waiver until we make
Yeah.
a decision, now that this conversation.
I would love to do that. I'm on the record, and this is what I'm sticking with,
Okay.
but I
We have to
can't
be
do
in
that.
compliance with the law.
So, yeah.
Mayor
Yep.
Hutchinson.
I understand.
Thank
Sorry.
you.
All right. Information item, when we're discussing the liquor license, we'll hear from the Middleton Police Department and local businesses. We're talking about, Chief, if you want to kick this off.
I'm just here to answer questions. I don't have a proposal or anything.
Okay,
Just you guys
no,
can
sir.
give me the answer.
Here's the number one
Slide ahead.
question that we had as we move forward with the liquor license was, most cities shutter down at 2. State code says 1, but we could do whatever, we would go to 2 if we'd like. We were split up here. Some said 1, some said 10 PM.
Right.
Some said 2.
Yeah, I heard it was 9 PM actually, but.
9 PM. So here's my first question. When does the swing shift officer, when does his shift end?
So, yeah, so let me give you kind of a comprehensive answer, just
Okay.
rather than answer that specific question. My personal opinion, and so to your premise, most cities shut down at 2. I don't know that to be true. Some shut down at 2.
Right.
I know Star shuts down at 2, Caldwell shuts down at 1. I mean, those are the 2 closest ones proximity-wise to us here in Middleton. What I would advocate for, if I'm just gonna cut to the chase and then back
Sure.
up, what I would advocate for would be 1 PM, or 1 AM. And there's 2 primary reasons for that. And one of those answers your question. And it'll be the second one. But the first one is, because 1 AM rather is consistent with state law. And I would need an objective, justifiable reason to deviate from state law, whether it was 2 AM or 9 PM. I don't have an objective, justifiable reason to do that, to deviate in either direction. So I say just stay the course. The second reason addresses your inquiry. Swing shift works from 2 PM to 2 AM, so our officers are off at 2 AM. Depending on the day of the week, I could have 2 or 1 officer on swing shift, and then I have 1 officer on graveyard. But any way you slice it, at 2 or 1 AM, I have 1 officer on.
Gotcha.
What I like about the 1 AM cutoff is it gives us a 1-hour cushion for some of those problems that may ensue in the the minutes after 1, between 1 and 2, or 1, Whereas if 2 of my 3 are going home at 2, and I've got 1 guy or gal on at 2:01, and then the problems are spilling over into the 2:15 and 2:30 range, then we're waiting for Star or Caldwell or Canyon County for backup, and I just feel a lot more comfortable without 1 hour of a cushion / insurance, if that makes sense.
And we're talking 1 AM, last call, last ring served. Not
My
necessarily.
understanding is that 1 AM is when everything has to be removed. Last call is at 12:30.
Oh, okay.
So my understanding is the 1 AM cutoff
Yes.
is that all consumable alcoholic beverages have to be removed from the proximity of the patrons.
By 1 AM.
Correct. Yeah, but the last service, I believe, is 12:30.
Okay.
And then they have that last 30 minutes to consume that last beverage.
Last beverage, gotcha.
Right.
Very good, okay. that
Any other
is-
questions from council
Council.
or the mayor?
I like those hours.
Okay,
I'm good.
Okay.
thank you very much, Chief.
Thank you.
All right,
Chief.
Chief, would you mind just staying up here? So the business owners will give some input. I mean, just stay up front in the chair.
Oh, yeah,
In
of
case we want you to pop back up for a second.
Thank you.
who do we have? Do we
We
have?
have one of the business owners here, I know.
Yes, 2. Oh, yes, perfect. Come on up.
Chairman.
Yes. 3? Oh, Casa Mexico's here as well, perfect. Name and address on the record, please, and then we're talking about shutdown time. So this is your chance to, if you disagree with what the chief is saying, let us know why.
Let me go first.
Yeah, go ahead.
Desmond Balderas, 21 North Dewey Avenue, Middleton, 3644.
Jennifer Kenyon, 3 North Dewey Avenue, Middleton, Idaho, 83644.
Business?
Business,
Shop, wine and tap, the bank.
okay, perfect. And can you give us your thoughts on this last call? We're done.
Both agree.
Both agree
Yeah, we're agreeing on
100%?
that
Yeah.
for sure.
Okay,
Yeah.
well then you made this very easy.
Well, this is our main, like, constraint. was
So
shutting down.
you're agreeing with the 12:30 class
Yes.
or 1 o'clock?
Yeah.
Yeah.
1
I
o'clock,
feel like
right?
you're going, oh, sorry.
Go ahead.
I feel like 2 AM, like what Star does, I feel like you run into more issues
Right.
when it gets later.
Mhm.
And, so, yeah, I agree. 1 o'clock, that's the state law anyway for the county.
Mhm.
So, yeah, I agree with that.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Well, thank you guys very much. You just made life easy for us.
Yeah, okay, you can go ahead and take a seat.
Casa Mexico, thank you, that's all we have.
Thank you very much.
Casa Mexico representative?
How's it going?
Good. Name and address, please. Yeah, if you,
Oh, okay.
so that kind of helps with the recording, so.
Jair Rocha.
Esmeralda Salazar, it's 517 South Middleton Road, Middleton, 83644.
Okay.
Yeah.
Same question.
The time's perfect.
Yeah, that works.
Yeah, it works.
Okay. Well, outstanding. Well, thank you guys. Well,
Everything's ready.
you guys just made everything super easy. Awesome.
Making me look like a fool for
Hey, we got a
Who else?
Sit over about.
Is it,
I guess
is anybody
not.
else?
Do we have any other businesses represented? No?
Okay.
Okay. So then I guess,
Last call.
yeah. Appropriately stated.
Well, Rob, let me ask, has anyone spoken to Mr. Hess about his hotel that is supposed to have a bar in it? If it comes in, but he
No.
might want to give some input on that as well.
Yeah, have not spoken with him. Since we don't know for sure in or out, then they will get what we have
Right.
when they come. I agree with the chief of staying with state law, plus with the coverage, and that was my concern from the beginning. So that answers our questions that was going there. So now, where are we at with the ordinance? Do we know, Becky?
So, Council, Becky Crofts, City Administrative Clerk. So we will be bringing a revised ordinance back before you at the next City Council meeting. I've gone through the ordinance, put some red lines through it, just a little bit of clarification on the license types. There was a couple of things in there that we wanted to clarify. A little piece of input I need from you is the number of licenses that we are going to be issuing. It's not a part of the ordinance, but it is a part of the process, right? And there was some discussion about 2020 census, 2021 census versus using Compass statistically validated numbers. Those produce a different number of licenses. So just for the listening public, the city can issue 1 license per 1,500 population in the city. Those numbers are different. For 2020 census is about 9,700. The 2021, these are not confirmed numbers. I'm just going from memory here. Puts us at about a little over 10,000, maybe close to 11, and then I believe the Compass numbers put us about 13,700. I was watching Mayor's mouth move like this. So those are your numbers. So take that, divide it by 1,500, and that gets your licenses that we are able to issue. Process is clearly defined in the ordinance that you will be adopting or making recommendations for changes next calendar meeting. We're following a pretty good ordinance. I think it's pretty good, pretty straightforward, lots of checks and balances in there. So we just need a little bit of direction on that, either tonight or at the next council meeting. Either way is fine. But we would need to kind of tackle that at the same time, so that once you do pass that ordinance and we get it published, the businesses can get to the business of getting licensed. So I'll stand for any questions.
Councilman Murray?
Do you know, are we currently looking at, or are there on the horizon, any of the grants which would apply to 10,000 and under?
There would be one grant, USRD, which is a rural development loan. Their rules change from time to time, but I believe currently they are looking at the 2020 census for their loans. Now where would that come into play? That would come into play with potentially our wastewater treatment plant. That particular project may or may not impact that. Since the 2021 census is out, we may not qualify for that because usually that's under 10,000 population. So I don't know, Jason, do you know if their rules are still 2020 or have they migrated to 2021? Do you know?
My understanding is they're still based on the 2020 census.
Okay. So just for the record, so they're still based on the 2020 census. So, so that's the only one that I'm aware of that might have a population statistic that would tie us to the ability to get a grant or not. Do know that maybe our city attorney could comment on, I don't think it's a part of our ordinance that decides, so what I don't know is, it's not a part of the ordinance, not written in here, the ordinance, it is the law. So if the city decided to start with the 2020 and then let's just say in 2025, what would be the process to increase the number of licenses? I don't know the answer to that question.
Mayor, Council, and Ms. Crofts, my suggestion would be that we probably pass a resolution just kind of documenting that change. I don't think it needs to be memorializing an ordinance of any kind, but just some sort of formality to let the business owners know that we're increasing that number and we have it on the record as to why we're doing that. That would be my suggestion.
Thank you.
Can I just clarify, Taylor?
Yeah.
So if we go with the 2020 census and then 12 months from now, we decide, hey, we're out of licenses and we'd like to up it. We can, on the fly, the next meeting, do a resolution and say we are now using Compass's numbers and we're gonna increase that.
My understanding, and I can look a bit further into this, I don't think there would be any requirement as to having like a public hearing or anything of that nature because it's not necessarily changing anything in our code per se. So I would stick with the idea that we could draft a resolution and have it in front of you on the agenda as a simple resolution rather than an ordinance, yes.
May I say something real quick? Populations grow all the time, so we're gonna be readdressing that constantly over the next 10 years. So I don't feel that it's been an issue in other towns like Boise at this time with the way they're licensing now.
Well, the concern being that up to this day, right now, this second, we utilize the data from the 2020 census for pretty much everything. I mean, I don't know what you guys do in the day-to-day, but we work off those numbers. There's a lot more grants at the 10,000 and under population level than there is 10 to, I think, somebody right here told me, 25 or 30 population level. So if we publicly declare that we are population 13, 14, whatever, then we can kiss a lot of those grants goodbye. So that's why I want to make sure that we approach it carefully.
And the sewer one's gonna be very expensive.
Very expensive, very.
Well, it kind of sounds like, Becky, let's work off the 2020. I was, Councilman Mayor, 2020.
Yeah, I'm good with that. We're just talking a couple of more liquor licenses, and I see 3 or 4 in town at the most right now. We're well above that.
Yes.
So I don't see an issue. Let's stick with our 2020 census. Move forward.
So council, next council meeting, what will come before you is the actual ordinance. You will also have a fee, because we have to establish a fee, so there'll be a resolution to set the fee, because the fee doesn't exist today. And that fee will become, it'll be according to the state law, which is $562.52. And you'll see that. You'll also see a transfer fee on there, because in our ordinance it allows for a transfer. And then you'll also see on that a minimum for if you kind of a proration fee, so no less than 6 months. So if you transfer your fee, the minimum is you'll be paid a proration fee of about 6 months. Okay, so those are the fees you'll see before you. Likely, you will also see a resolution declaring or stating, this is up to city council, the set number of licenses. So those are the three things that will come before you probably next city council meeting. You'll see those in your packet. Please, the ordinance is, please do take some time to read through the ordinance, make sure it's exactly what you want, so that we can get these put in place and issued as quickly as possible for these businesses to get moving forward. Any questions?
Thank you.
All right, cancel. In front of us, we have, moving on to action items, we have a consent agenda in front of us. Minutes from January 17, minutes from the open house, payroll, accounts payable, authorization of the mayor to approve the quote from Xylem.
I know. I'll go with that.
Sure. To rebuild the Prospector Lift Station water pump, and authorization of meter replacement components from Zenner, as described in a quote dated on the 30th. Council question on accounts payable or anything in the consent agenda? All right, hearing none, then I move we approve consent agenda items A through G.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Okay, action item number 2, election of the city council president.
Well, I put forward Mr. Kaiser's name.
Okay? Any other names to put out there?
Second.
Oh, sorry, leave a second, didn't my bad.
Okay,
Do we need to?
President Kaiser?
Get some clarification.
Yes.
Okay, so I had a motion by Councilmember Christiansen to nominate President Kaiser.
As
Councilman
president for the
Kaiser
next
as
year.
President Kaiser, and a second by O'Meara. Okay,
And then everybody agreed to that?
All in favor, say aye.
All in favor say
Aye.
opposed. Motion carries.
Okay, number 3, consider approving the expenditure of $390 in reimbursement of materials necessary for the construction and installation of trail markers by Mr. Joshua Lavandorsky. I'm so sorry.
There we go.
Boy Scout Troop number 5, and we have Mr. Van Gilder.
Thank you, Mayor. Jason Bagel, your Public Works Director, here to introduce Mr. Lewandowski. Hopefully you can correct us, as I have mispronounced that before. Also wanted to note that a couple of months ago, we had assistance in flying some flags over the City Hall on behalf of the City Council's request. And Mr. Lewandowski and his brother, also Mr. Lewandowski, completed that for us, and they did a very good job for us. We appreciate that work. So this motion, he's reached out to us about a potential Boy Scout project, and we wanted to share that with you and request some funds. So with that, I will hand it over to Mr. Lewandowski. Thank you.
My bad. So I'm doing a Eagle project for the trail markers. So it would be for the so it's gonna be like a standard or like a, I don't know, like once they create like the river walk and stuff like that, they're planning to use the same kind of standard. So the trail I would start with would go along the next to Ridley's. Do you know that trail? And yeah, that's all I.
I'm sorry.
Are these,
Councilmember O'Meara, please.
yes, Mayor Hutchinson, Mr. Lembowski, is that correct? Yes, are these like mileage markers, so we
Yes.
know how far we walked, or?
Yes.
Okay, so you're giving us, what, tenths of a mile or something?
Yes, it would be tenths of a mile. Each trail would be color coordinated.
Oh, okay.
So this first one would probably be like red, They just colored that side on, and then, yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Part of this need has come from, as we've been developing our trail plans, we've realized that other trails have places where if people get stuck or hurt, they can easily call 911 and let the dispatcher know where they are on the trail. So he's been working with our fire marshal to kind of develop that standard, and it's been some pioneering work. We haven't had this, so we appreciate his research and investigating different ones. But hopefully that sheds a little more light on it.
So are we talking just the trail along Ridley's, basically starting at Highway 44 and going to the bridge, just marking that trail for now? Is that what we're talking about? Okay. I like the idea.
Okay, do I have a motion to approve the expenditure of $390 in reimbursement and necessary for the construction and installation of trail markers by Mr. Joshua Lewandowski?
All right. I'll move to approve the expenditure of up to $390 for reimbursement materials necessary to construct and install the trail markers.
Second.
By Mr. Joshua. I'm not going to attempt your last names. It's been moved and seconded by Mr. O'Meara. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Thank
Opposed?
you for the flags.
Yes.
Motion carries. I'm excited to see your
Jason.
work.
Are these the Veterans Day flags we're talking about?
Yes.
Mr. Lewandowski, thank you for doing that.
Yes.
Yes.
Good luck with your project.
It's been a long time.
Okay, number 4, consider approving the mayor's appointment of the following individuals to serve a 3-year term to the Local Improvement District Advisory Board. Tim O'Meara for City Council, Susan Lowe for City Resident, Mike McDougall for County Resident, Cindy Powell for County Resident, David Murray for City Council, Janet Gibson for City Resident, and Carol Watkins for County Resident.
Council question on the, all right.
No, excited to get this moving.
I know we have a few of those individuals in the audience tonight.
Do we want to bring them up? Is that what you're saying?
If you'd like.
Stand
Those
on
of
your
you that
own
would
list.
like to come up may come up.
Nobody.
A lot of squirming going on.
Stand up.
Give us
Or
the light.
stand up, yes, if you'd
Yes.
like to stand up.
Yeah, if you would stand so we know who you are. For those of us that don't, I know most. Yes, thank you. All right, then I move we approve the mayor's appointment of the following individuals to serve 3-year terms for the Local Improvement District Advisory Committee. Tim O'Meara from City Council, Susan Lowe as a city resident, Mike McDougall, a county resident, Cindy Powell, county resident, David Murray, City Council, Janet Gibson as city resident, and Carol Watkins as county resident.
I'll second that.
It's been moved and seconded. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Okay, number 5, consider approving resolution number 503-24, a resolution of the City Council of the City of Middleton, Idaho, declaring certain water utility and business personnel property as obsolete or surplus, authorizing and directing disposal of donation of surplus property. Ms. Cross.
Thank you. Council, what you see before you is the Water Utility Department has been actively changing out the radios from a manual read or a wand read to a radio read. And as we do that, these are the old radios that aren't needed any longer. So we have 1,000 plus of these old census meter radios that need to be surplus. They really have zero value. We will likely discard them, get rid of them. Do know that the batteries, which is the picture over here on the right, those we will have to pay to have those, they're lithium batteries. So we will have a certain amount of money that the city will pay to have to get those properly disposed of. So that's the first item that's before you. The other items listed below, you can read through the list. These are old telephone handsets, gateway, which is a communication device, an old shelf, a couple of batteries that are non-working. Most of the personal property that you see up here is non-working. I would like to point out at the picture on the bottom that there is a printer shown that is not included in the surplus. That is a usable item. That's why it's got a little red X on it. We've listed the values that we think they might be. The monitors could be about $10 each. The calculator maybe could be sold for $5, and the computer, that shelf, could be about $10. We could spend a lot of staff time trying to sell this, or we can donate it to one of the local thrift shops. I believe there's a Salvation Army here. We could donate it there, and they could see if they can get anything from this. So it is a surplus ordinance. It does require your authorization and approval. If you move forward with this tonight, then we would move forward with the donation of these items and the disposal of the first items. Stand for questions.
Council, questions for Ms. Crops? Pretty straightforward. All right, then I move we approve resolution number 503-24.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Okay, number 6, consider adopting ordinance 690, an ordinance enacted by the Middleton City Council attending Title I, Chapter 5, Section 01-05-01, Middleton City Code, pertaining to the salary of the mayor. I'm not asking for a raise. Providing for an effective date, providing for severability, and repealing of all ordinances, resolutions, orders, and parts thereof in conflict herewith. Would you like to explain that?
I can, sure, thank you, Mayor. Mayor and Council, tonight you have an ordinance in front of you. Mayor Jackie ran throughout her campaign and election that she had the desire to serve the city with no salary or income expectation throughout her tenure and term. So what you see in this ordinance is that it's important to note that for obvious reasons, mayors and council members throughout the state and across the country are not permitted to make salary changes to the current term in which they're serving. Those changes can only be made for the next term after that. So we are not changing or removing the opportunity for future mayors to receive a salary. This is just a kind of carve out for if the mayor elects to serve without compensation. There's an option for that. So again, not changing salaries for any future mayors to come. Not saying that Mayor Jackie will never be able to accept a pay, compensation, or wage if she so chooses. Just making that little option at her request. So a follow-up on that as well is that I understand Mayor Jackie would like to see some sort of line item in the general fund where this money is able to be spent at her discretion for mayor projects and that sort of nature. So that's not something that's necessarily going to be put forward in an ordinance. It's more just an understanding of where that money is going to be placed, and we'll work with Wendy Miles to see what that kind of would look like logistically. So that's my update on that.
Mayor, council, question. This does not affect the yearly salary for budgeting purposes, is that correct?
Nope, it does not.
So that stays consistent, and it's just that amount goes into the general fund.
Correct.
And can be used.
It's going to be kept in a little bit off to the side, and any project on Main Street that I wish to do, I will go before council and get your okay. I'm not going to paint something hot pink, for instance. I will clear everything through you.
These are budget questions, nothing more. So it's kind of a Mox Nix. It's still a debit, but goes into a different fund to be expended, so that the mayor doesn't have to pay taxes and all those things associated with it. Use the full value of that compensation for other purposes.
Correct.
Okay.
Councilmember Christiansen, the alternative would be that the mayor accepts that and then donates those funds back. It seems like a misuse of funds in multiple different ways, so
Yeah.
correct, you're kind of
But
seeing
the point
the
is
big
that
picture,
it's just,
yes.
it's crossing budget boundaries, but it is a zero-sum arrangement.
That's correct, yes.
Okay.
Councilman Murray?
Correct me if I'm wrong, but city code does stipulate the mayor has power to spend up to 5,000 on her own authority, and then anything over that would come to council, is that correct?
Councilman Murray, that is correct. I'm trying to recall if that is just in relation to budgeted items, and this wouldn't necessarily be under that same umbrella. I'm looking at Ms. Crofts to see if I'm remembering that correctly. Would that be different?
So it is, I believe that spending authority has been drafted by resolution. I don't know that it's in code, but I believe it was drafted by resolution. I can get you a copy of that. And it is for budgeted items, and we just have to review that more specifically. But there is a spending authority for the mayor up to $5,000. What I am unsure of is if it is only budgeted funds or unbudgeted funds.
Budgeted funds in any of the fund categories, is that correct?
Correct.
Okay.
And that was adopted, I'm gonna guess 15 or 20 years ago. It's been quite a while, yeah. It hasn't changed.
Okay. The one thing I'm trying, I mean, I have no problem if the mayor chooses not to, then absolutely not every mayor is gonna have that option financially. So this part, I like the option there. What I don't wanna create extra, I mean, I've seen our accounts for Wendy to track something else in a budget item, because it does come out of the general fund. To me, when I look at our budget and I think about our budget, that's a budgeted item, same as if we budgeted for someone to mow lawns and we hadn't hired them yet. Every month they're not hired, that's just surplus funding. It's not like we take that money then and say, okay, we just hired a guy and you get the last couple months' wages. So that becomes a surplus to go forward towards other things. And I understand you're trying to address other things just in a different way. So I'm trying, and I don't know Wendy's world for tracking things. I don't know what that looks like in her world. I'm just trying not to speak for her to create extra work is what I'm looking for.
I visited with Wendy about this briefly. I don't think she sees it as a burden.
Okay.
So I think a new line in the, could be, 04-001 would be created, and then those funds would be tracked there. So visibility, transparency, all of that would be completely available to council. And as Mayor Jackie has stated, she would come before the council,
Right.
before those funds were spent. So take a project, Project A cost estimated $6,000. That would come before council before it was authorized to be spent.
So on that line, so is that something we're remembering, memory item, or is that something that's codified?
On that line, oh, it would be
When it comes
in the
to-
budget,
Whether it
so,
comes to council or not.
yeah, oh, it would always come before council.
Okay.
So just like any other
Whether it's
expense,
under 5,000 or not.
correct, if that is your desire, that can be,
I'm
yeah,
just trying to make sure whatever we decide
yeah,
is in the code.
yep.
Yeah, so that we don't have ambiguity, what did we say, that was, what did we?
Yeah.
We just want to make sure, and again, it's nothing, it's all about coding, or not coding, but process.
Well, yeah, and staying as transparent as possible, which I think that's with Wendy and the line item, and then Mayor Hutchison bringing everything back before that creates that layer of transparency.
The benefit of creating a line item in the budget is that line item, anything that's spent against that line is coded to that line. And at the end of the year, mid-year, at any point, council could say, what's been spent against that line? Mayor could say, what's been spent against that line? A resident could say, what's been spent against that line? And then again, for that full transparency of those dollars being spent.
That's a better way of putting it, I was trying to ask, thank you.
Okay. And the wording. Any other thoughts? Councilmember Merritt?
First, I'd like to thank you for your generosity to the city. I think that's a admirable idea, but there again, I am still concerned about making sure that we're separating what's city funds and what we're using those for and what's Jackie's project. So coming back to the council with it, I think that's a wonderful idea.
Okay. All right, then I move we read ordinance number 690 by title only.
Second, sorry.
It's been moved and seconded. Roll call, please.
Council President Kaiser?
Yes.
Councilmember Christiansen?
Yes.
Councilmember Murray?
Yes.
Councilmember O'Meara?
Yes.
Ordinance 690 reads, an ordinance enacted by the Middleton City Council amending Title I, Chapter 5, Section 01-05-01 Middleton City Code pertaining to salary of the mayor, providing for an effective date, providing for severability, and repealing all ordinances, resolutions, orders, and parts thereof in conflict herewithin. I move we waive the 3 reading rule and adopt ordinance number 690.
I'll second that.
It's been moved and seconded. Roll call, please.
Council President Kaiser?
Yes.
Councilmember Christiansen?
Yes.
Councilmember Murray?
Yes.
Councilmember O'Meara?
Yes.
Yes, sorry.
Thank you.
Sorry, ordinance passes. I was trying to move on to the next thing. I apologize. I lost the deal. All right. It's 6:28. We're going to take, before we take up the rest of this long agenda, we're going to take a 5-minute break or so. And students, this is a good time for you to get your agenda signed. And thank you for sitting through